Hi, and welcome to the Your Story Studios podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things content creation. And today on the show, I'm joined by a man who needs absolutely no introduction. But for people who may not know you, who are you and what are you doing here?
Hi, I'm Will Nash. I've moved over from London to get into the Melbourne scene. I'm a director and I'm a photographer.
Excellent. Well, Will, tell me, how did you first begin getting into video production?
So my early stages of getting into video production was probably when I was doing my art courses at college. I had one teacher at my first college who pointed me in the direction of some really obscure French new wave movies. So that kind of sparked an interest of a moving image as opposed to, painting and sculptures and all that. So that was kind of trickling through. Also, as a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, like TV was my third parent. So that was always very prominent. Movies were very prominent as well for me. But it probably wasn't until I did my art diploma, the department above us where we were doing art was the media department. And there was a teacher called Richard who just encouraged me to mess around with the video cameras and try and do more things with video. The art department were discouraging of that because they wanted me to do more traditional art. Being 19, I was like, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to do some video stuff because that's going to annoy you guys. And I'm going to do that. So I had to kind of work out a balance between shooting video and making it artistic as well and conceptual art and all this kind of stuff. And I, did it to get through the course for the art side. But off the back of that, with the media department, that was what really sparked my interest in filmmaking, video making, the moving image. Then went on to university to study film with psychology. And it was during that period that I was lucky enough to start getting work experience on TV sets. And then it kind of blossomed from there, really.
How did you get onto those TV sets?
I've got an uncle who's a doctor. He had a patient who came in who had a bad back. Turned out he was a cameraman. Made a little joke that if he sorted his back out, could he get his nephew some work experience? And I think the guy just really needed his back fixed and would do anything. So
worked out for you.
Worked out for me. I didn't know this was going on in the background. So it was really good. A little bit of nepotism there. But got me onto a TV drama for 2 weeks. That was Prime Suspect with Helen Mirren. Shortly after then, when I finished university, moved up to London, then started working my way around as a runner, short films, music videos, TV shoots, film shoots, anything that would take me at the time. Got myself in as an assistant director on some of those smaller shoots as well. Did one feature film as an assistant director and then quit after that on that department.
Why?
It was there's a beautiful family of people that I worked with on that. But it was just a disaster movie from beginning to end. We'd been brought in, the AD team, very late on, almost like 3 days, I think, before the shoot started. So the schedule was already kind of written and given to us, and we weren't kind of fully prepared for everything that we had. I remember someone telling me at the time that I was like one of the youngest assistant directors in the country. And then I had two younger guys who were like my second and third AD as well. And I was like, wow, we're babies and we're running a film set. So it was, there were some lovely moments in it, but it was a pure disaster film as well. And it was off the back of that I just realized the stress and anxiety of running probably one of the worst shoots in that sense that I've been on, just pushed me away from it. And when I came back, that was on the other side of the country in the UK. When I came back to London, what I then wanted to do was just properly work out where I wanted to be in the industry. And so I went back to being a runner for another year, got myself onto some commercials, then started getting back onto TV comedy, found out that I wanted to do more camera stuff. So got in as a camera trainee with some guys in the camera department and slowly then just started working my way up the ladder on that. Always thought I was going to be a director of photography when I was at that point, and then changed my mind again because I'm always changing my mind, which I think
perfectly allowed to do.
Yeah, exactly. I worked with an actress once who we did a few little short films together, and she got the script for like this series we were doing, and there was something complicated in it. And she just, in the nicest way, turned around and went, "You just never make things easy for yourself." And I went, "Yeah, but it wouldn't be fun if, if it was plain and, smooth sailing. There's no challenges in it." So yeah, I was then kind of running a career in the camera department and starting to do some directing pieces on the side, trying to build that up. But as with most cases, you can't kind of just drop one department that you're in and just suddenly become a director. It's not like an overnight thing. no one will believe you can do it unless you've proved it and shown that you can do it. So that took a good couple of years. And then 2019, there was getting a good string of promos, music videos, and other bits and pieces, directing wise. And I thought, right, 2020, that's my year. I'm going to put the camera down finally, and I'm going to put the director's hat on full time and do it. And then March happened in 2020 and shut everything down. So that was fun. There was a lot of online Skype directing and music videos during that time, having to add additional days onto the shoots so that I could teach the people at the other end, the artists, how to, set up green screens for the first time. They've, buying cheap ones off Amazon. They've got to iron it out and make sure there's no creases. You got to light it all, trying to get their understanding on it. It was I think the real thing out of that period was challenging your patience as a creative and as a director.
And lowering your expectations.
Oh, yeah. You kind of got to put them to one side because the world's on fire. And also there'd be days where you're just there going, I'm sat in in a tiny room with no internet in this like crummy sort of, old house that we're in. And there's a couple in London who have taken my video feed over Skype, trying to listen to what I'm doing. They want to do their own thing. You're not physically there with the people. So they will kind of lead and take their own stance on different bits and pieces. And you can get very upset and very angry about that. And then that will just shut the whole thing down. Or you can just have the patience of a saint and you just have to do it for a few days and then it's done. Then you can moan about it afterwards.
Go on a podcast and
moan about it, 4 years later. They know where they are. But no, they're lovely people. But so there was that. And then things started slowly coming back to life. Even that summer was fairly busy. People trying to navigate how to work back on set, what parameters and what safety you needed to bring into whilst you're now working with people. And now you've got this, elephant in the room with the virus, and you'd hear people go off and then all of a sudden they've got it. And what did we do wrong? What did we not do right? And it slowly started to pick up a bit during the years following. But then the main move for myself and my family to come over to here, to Melbourne, apart from my partner being half Australian, having family ties here and family here already, the workload in the UK has just been slowly just drying up. Things like Brexit are stopping work coming in from Europe and stopping us going over to Europe on last minute phone calls. You'd sometimes have someone call you up and say, hey, it's a newspaper. We're going to do a restaurant in France, in Paris. Do you want to come over? Come tomorrow. And you'd be like, yeah, that was just all closing up. It was kind of getting to that point again where I just thought, right, you made a decision in 2019 to put the camera down and become a director. Now you've got to make a decision of what to do with your life. Do you carry on in this career where nothing's happening and you're just getting bookings and things are just getting cancelled because people are hanging on to money and not wanting to spend on their budgets? What do you do after nearly 20 years? Like, how do you shift from a huge chunk of your life? I mean, it's half of my life has been in this industry. So what do you do with that? Or do you try and work out another way of doing it and go halfway across the globe and start afresh with, minimal connections? A few people I knew who I'd worked with in London who were from Australia who'd moved back to Melbourne, managed to get out of London as well before COVID really settled in. So had a bit of that. Yeah. And then it was just like, right, it's almost a bigger push. I think the thing in the UK during the 2022 and 2023 was that it was getting so sort of stagnant and stale that no one was having any energy to shake it off and do anything. But when you move your whole family to another side of the world, I've got to step up my game because I've got to get on with it. And, the kids need feeding. I've got to be doing something with my life now instead of just waiting around for the phone calls to be happening. So it's been a really good sort of impetus just to pull my socks up and get on with it, which you kind of need nowadays sometimes. Like, you just need to, someone just to shove you out there and just be like, crack on. And not be so cozy and comfortable with the fact that you've been doing it for so long. So I think that's always a good thing. I think, shaking it up in that sense. And then the photography that I've picked up the last couple of years, that was during the pandemic. I just needed something creatively to do. There was so many large gaps in between shoots that I was like, I just need to be, what can I do? I haven't got enough money to start buying camera equipment because there's not enough money coming in, but I need some sort of expression of myself. I was down in Brighton on the south coast in the UK, having a weekend off, went to a camera shop, told them I had like £100 to buy a camera. I know that camera.
They laughed at you.
Yeah, they kind of laughed at me. That camera I've got is worth a lot more than that. So they were being very, generous by giving it to me for that. I think he bumped me up by £10 or something in the end. Took a roll of film, shot it around Brighton, just the landscapes and the city and stuff. It sucked. It looked awful. I was just like, wow, this is, here I am buying this thing thinking, oh, it'll be a booster and I'm going to turn myself around. And then I look at the footage, the photos that I've taken. I was like, these really suck. This is awful. And then it was just that thought of what I really enjoy as a director is the people that you're shooting in front of you, the human side of stories, big advocate for comedy and dark comedy in certain situations. And I was thinking, how can I get that with photography? Photography I'd done at art college as well, sort of almost 15, 20 years previous. But I'd forgotten a lot of the technical sides of it. And a few actor friends wanted some photos done. And I thought, right, let's just take that opportunity to just buy a whole lot of film, waste it, shoot it on some stuff, see what comes out. First couple of rolls with people. I mean, there was one shoot I did with a friend of mine, Rachel, who I thought I'd loaded the film in. We got to the end of the roll and I was cranking the camera onto the next shot. And instead of it stopping at 36, I was on 40 and I thought something's gone wrong. I hadn't loaded it properly. We'd spent 2 hours walking around like Soho, Trafalgar Square, taking these photos at night. And I just really messed it up. So it was good having those people around me at the time as well, just to kind of, she was really annoyed. I went back.
What a waste of time.
What a waste of time. Waste of time and money. I went back later on and we redid like a different series of shots and stuff together. But yeah, and then I just started reaching out to other actor friends, comedians, anyone who kind of wanted portraits done, and then was trying to find my way of doing it. A lot of the photography side is, I think, to kind of keep that human comedic element is very candid. And I just wait until people are doing something before I take the photo, as opposed to setting them up for a photo and then grabbing it. So that was kind of my main basis of my photography style. But then through that, I kind of wanted to do something a bit more structured. So now the more recent portrait shoots I've done, they are a bit more kind of staged in a set. But once I've got the setting and the stage there, then that candid kind of comedic element comes back in. And I'll wait until people have been posing for sort of 10 minutes and then they get in a mood and then I take the photo, because that's the moment.
Yeah.
That's me pretty much in a up to date in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, when you were back in the UK and you was looking for that video work, what was the main method that you were using to get jobs?
So for the bulk of my career, it was all just networking and who you worked with previously and who would recommend you to someone else. And a lot of what I'd learned was not so much of who I knew, but who knew of me. I was finding out, because especially when I was a clapper loader and a focus puller, I would be getting phone calls from people who had heard of me through someone else because apparently I'd done a great job on something else.
They heard good things.
Yeah. And I just thought they'd called the wrong Will Nash. So I'd take the job anyway, because then the other guy can not have the work. But so a lot of it and the way it worked, I think with that side of the industry there, especially with TV and commercials, was that you're surrounded by a big crew the whole time. So for me, that's always a good excuse just to, have a lot of people around me and just get on with people and just have a nice day at work. And I think that then kind of came through to other people, and then they'd be like, oh, he was a nice guy to work with for 12 hours a day. If you need a focus puller or a clapper loader, phone Will up. So that was the sort of main bulk of it. And then into the directing side, it was then kind of, it's like stepping on eggshells really, because when you're in a hierarchy like that, you don't want to overstep your mark and just start talking to producers and saying, hey, I can do what the director does, or give me a chance to do it one day whilst everyone's there. So it's then just finding your moments with those potential employers to just kind of just say, oh, I'm interested in doing this. And I think
just casually mention it.
Yeah. And I think if you don't say that you're interested in doing something, or you don't say that I want to do this one day, no one's ever going to know. And people will just kind of keep you doing what you want to do. And you can get very disgruntled with that and be like, oh, I wish I was doing that. With film and TV and commercials, there's no real kind of business model that you do it for so many years in one department or one job title, and then you'll move up to the next one. I know focus pullers have been doing that all of their life because that's what they want to do. And same with clapper loaders and stuff, and they don't want to progress on from that. But then equally, I know some people who will do it for like a year and then will just want to step up straight away. There isn't a structure to it, which might be kind of its failing as well, and that no one knows how to navigate it properly. I get a lot of phone calls and emails from people who are either directly themselves who want to get into the industry and they found me and they want to have a chat, and I'll always have a chat with people, or it's someone's kid who's interested in doing it. And I never really had that full guidance. The first guy who kind of gave me work experience on the first couple of things I did, that was fantastic and met a great group of people. But then they went off to do other things. He became an underwater camera operator. So he was just off. He was off doing that. So then when I moved up to London, it then became about, right, I need to kind of work out how to fit into the industry, walking around Soho, knocking on doors with CVs, getting the door slammed in your face.
Character building stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. Getting shouted at a lot. A lot of shouting back in the early noughties. And then you'd land one job and then you'd go around again. And then you go around again. And at some point, it just kind of clicked with people that you're hanging around and you're going to do it and you want to do a good job. And I think when people see that you want to do a good job as well and that you're hardworking, they want to bring you back on because it makes the shoot easier. If you're kind of there for the glory, there's a lot of it. You get people who will want to be in film and TV for the glory of it, say they work in it, but then you'll work with them and you just think, God, like, pull your finger out, like, come and do some work and just, pull your socks up, get on with it. So I think hard work ethic, and that came as well from me wanting to be in the industry, not because I wanted to be a famous film director one day. I just loved working in film and TV and making things, making a moving image. So to do that, I've just got to work hard and carry on doing it. But I get a kick out of working hard, like finding problems, finding solutions for them. That's one of my biggest things that I really enjoy, because you'll always get problems on shoots, no matter how big or small they are. Something's going to mess up and you're going to be in trouble, and no one's allowed to know that you're in trouble. And you've got to work out in your head, without showing it on here, how am I going to fix this? And what's the best way to fix it? And sometimes the thing is like, we can't fix it right here, right now. We'll have to find a solution for it another day, or we'll, work around it. Once you do that as well and you find those solutions, you get such a kick out of like, God, I did it.
Real sense of achievement.
Yeah. I find sometimes that like, maybe like the back half of I don't know the full biology of the brain, but like the back half of my brain, I feel like there's a version of me who's constantly digging me out of trouble. And you come out and you deliver things and you say things, or you come out with a solution to a problem, and people are like, wow, that was really good. And you're thinking, yeah, I don't know how I did that. But it's years of, experience, learning, the people around you that if you've grown up with people who, my dad was a big person who believed if there was a problem, there was a solution for it. So I can learn that from him as well. So it's just, ingrained in you up there. But that section of yourself at the back there is a lifesaver. You've got to look after it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So let's now move to today and what you're doing today in Melbourne, Australia.
So today I'm with you.
Mm-hmm. Doing a fantastic podcast record. And then when you leave here.
Yeah, when I head home. So the last year of being here has primarily for me just been, let's re-network and find people that I want to be working with and find people who are doing the work. And initially as well, because it's been so slow in the UK, for me, it's also, let's just get to work and do some work. And I'm very fortunate in I think from coming from the camera department as well, which is the predominant department on any shoot. You can't do a shoot without a camera. Although in saying that, it's also good to remind yourself that you're not the most important department on set. I think those two sometimes don't go hand in hand with each other. And some people feel because they've got the camera in their hands, they are the god of the set. But from having that varied background of working on, corporate shoots, travel, music videos, film, TV, everything, I know I can take my hand to any kind of shoot and help out and still shoot myself as well. So for me, coming into Melbourne, it was just like, right, let's just find some video, film, TV, commercial work, anything, just to get myself going, because I need to get out of that sort of stalemate that I was in back in the UK. I've done the big move. We arrived in December. Turns out everyone goes off for 3 months.
About that, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good, because I'd had some phone calls with people before we'd left in November, and they were like, oh, give us a call when you get over. Arrived in December, called them all up, and we'll speak to you in February.
Mm.
So, family time, which is good. I've had a lot of family time, love them to pieces, but was also just very itchy to kind of get into work. So it's been understandably sort of a slow year getting in on the video and film side of things. but it definitely feels like it is picking up and there is momentum. LinkedIn is a beast over here. In the UK, a lot of people will have LinkedIn. You'll have an account, you won't use it. I deleted my UK account before I came over here because I was just getting emails and I just wasn't interested in it. And then April this year, someone recommended to me, you should get on LinkedIn. And I kind of just laughed it off, left it for a couple of weeks, and then thought, oh, I'll try it. Like, I'm emailing and I'm phone calling everyone, and it's kind of just going on deaf ears a lot. So I went on LinkedIn and just saw how many more creative people are on there and how many more videographers and film people are on there as well and using it. Whereas as a proper network tool as well, which is what it is. But in the UK, I think because everything's sort of, someone or someone else, that's the networking route there. It wasn't a device or it wasn't a platform that people would use. So it's been fantastic here for someone who's just arrived and then needs to just branch out very quickly to get hold of a lot of people and just say, hey, I'm here. It's been great. And I've even had messages from people who, because now I've got a nice growing amount of connections on there, they think I know other people in person that I've connected to and I've had chats with and stuff. And they're like, oh, Steve, or Liam, or Jan, and all this. It's like, oh no, well, I've not met them. And also people now thinking that I must have, I'm from Melbourne, or until I drop a hint that I'm British. And I had a great chat with a producer recently who we were chatting about a TV series that they were potentially doing over in Sydney. And I let slip, not in a bad way, but that we something about being British. And she said, oh, do you have a British accent then if you're from the UK? And I was like, well, yeah. And she said, well, we need someone with a UK accent to do a voiceover. And I thought, well, I'm not an actor.
But were you open to it?
Yeah, I thought, they were like, oh, it's 10 recording dates between now and Christmas. You'd have to keep coming to Sydney. And I was like, that's great. Get to travel a bit and, use this, which I've never thought of before. So I did one audition take on it. Turns out I was too posh.
Right.
Because I was trying to be very presentary and then did a second one and then got this email back saying they've gone with an actor, which was really understandable. The email was so apologetic. We're sorry, wasted your time. And I thought, you haven't at all. Like, it's been a good laugh this week doing that. And for a split second, I just thought, am I going to become a voiceover artist? Because I don't think this is worthy of any TV show.
And the answer was no.
And the answer was no. Yeah, rightly so. But it's been great, that platform, for just the most random connections, and even chatting to people from Melbourne who've moved to London recently. So we've got that connection and we've both just gone the opposite ends of each other. I'm telling them to come back because it's dying over there. But, they've done
they'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. That's pretty much where I am at the moment. It's been a bigger year for me photography wise than video wise, which was something I've been leaning more into anyway, especially shooting on film photography. There's a big film photography network here in Melbourne, bigger than it feels like it is in London. And just finding there's a big comedy community here as well. The Melbourne Comedy Festival is almost like a mecca for British comedians that they want to come over and they want to perform here. And I knew that was a thing. So meeting lots of those comedians, doing portrait shoots with them, keeping that going and moving. So yeah, it's been a good kind of shake up again of the whole world.
And then going into the future, where do you see your career going?
There's a few things that have niggled at me that I haven't done yet, and they're big things, and I know that they'll take a while to do. So I've always wanted to kind of do my own indie feature film at some point, and there's potentially some things going on in the background that may start leading towards that. But then I never say I'm doing one until you're greenlit and you're shooting all that. The same with TV. It'd be great to kind of come back around to the TV world, this time as a director. And again, there's one or two just little things that may be happening, fingers crossed with all that. I want to kind of, directing wise, get myself back round to that world, and doing more longer form scripted comedy would be fantastic. But equally, now that I'm doing more photography, I'm loving doing photography. Like, it's me, it's a camera, there's no crew. It's just me and the subject. There's just less stress around you as well. You still get the odd stress of like, you're shooting on film, did I do the right bit there?
This costs money.
Yeah, this costs money. Especially when you get to that point where you're no longer doing portraits for actor and comedian friends as a favor. You're charging people for your service.
And there are expectations.
Yeah. They wanted to, that's been some did a promo video for a fashion brand back in London on Super 8 film. And we'd shown the client what Super 8 looked like, and they'd grown up with it. So, and we had a still photographer shooting on film while we were doing it. So we shot the thing. And then I gave over a clip of some of the rushes to show them before we started editing, like, oh, look, it's looking fantastic and stuff. And there was a bit of surprise in the feedback of like, oh, it's quite small and grainy, and just, you know, I was like, yeah, it's Super 8. Like, you signed off that we were going to shoot on that.
Yeah, so, but not that.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it would look nicer than that. It looked amazing when we pieced it all together, and they loved it. That's the thing with clients anyway, isn't it? You kind of prepare for their expectations of what they're going to get, and there's still some of them turn around and be like, oh, you shot a video? I thought we were after photos. Do you know, like, it would be the most obscure thing.
Yeah.
One client once asked, while we were shooting a corporate, we had the zebras on the monitor, and they asked if that would be on the picture at the end. And I said, oh, no, it's just, you know, so we can check the light and all that. Oh, it's a real shame because it looks really nice. Is there no way we can like have that baked in on the footage? And I was like, I thought they were pulling my leg. Went over and spoke to the producer, was like, just heads up. Like, I've had this question. And they were like, wow, that's weird. But yeah, I don't know if the client ever got what they wanted in the end with a zebra-esque version of their footage. But yeah, sometimes you just got to prepare for the craziest feedback on things. But yeah, no, so for the rest of the future, I think photography-wise, it would be great to keep building that portrait side of photography with people. I've done a few athletes now, people who work in sport. There's a few sort of political people who work in politics who are interested in having photos done. So it's kind of starting to broaden itself a bit as well. I'm having some work put up in a gallery in Melbourne in December, which would be really good. I got published in a magazine at the start of the year, which was brilliant. I think just having those little tasters of like where your work as art can go to was really cool, because that kind of brought me back to like my 19-year-old self at art college. I've made something and people want to see it. Whereas I think a lot of the time when you're directing and doing stuff, you're doing it for a client or you're doing it for an end financial purpose. So to see something with that more artistic side of it come out, that's been a real boost. So it's, yeah, again, I'm just going to spin loads of plates and just have, you know, try and get that side of the directing going, but the photography kind of keep that booming as well at the same time.
Yeah, well, it's always good to have a few plates spinning at the same time, because one stops spinning. Yeah, totally. You've still got another one spinning.
Yeah.
Start spinning
Don't
again.
drop the kids and the family one, and then you'll be all right.
Yes, that's right. And to finish off today's episode, Will, do you have any words of wisdom for our audience?
I've always had almost like a mantra that I stole from Bill and Ted. Great movie. And I've always kind of tried to stick to, Bill and Ted said, be excellent to each other. And I feel like that's just broadly works for everything. Like, if you're not being a dick to anyone, that's cool. And everyone can just get on with things. When I started getting into like being a clapper loader and a focus puller and coming away from being a camera trainee and a runner and getting away from kind of that toxicity that I was getting at those stages, I then was always making sure that like if anyone else was getting that below me, at least I'm above them and I can squash that and just, you know, look after them. And I remember one trainee had a monitor, a doctor on their head, and the producers didn't want to send her home. And I was like, I'm going to get her a taxi and send her home. You know, she needs, and then we need to phone her up, make sure she's all right and stuff. They didn't want to pay for the taxi. And I was like, don't worry about it. Just, you know, don't be a dick. Just look after each other. But that's always something that I just thought, you're working with a lot of people. Everyone's going through their own stuff before they come to set. People's moods on set can be, you know, I've worked with some people who just their moods have switched on set and they've become awful. And I just think, right, well, now you're not being cool for everyone else. Let's just have a word and sort it out. But there's always, you never know everyone else's backstory fully. So I think as long as you're just generally to everyone just cool and nice, then it would just make, you know, as a base level, just makes everything a lot easier. So yeah, I'd say just be excellent to each other.
Great words to finish this episode on. Thank you, Will, for joining us on the Your Story Studios podcast.
Cheers.